the UK is constructing the largest, most capable, and the most expensive submarine class in its naval history. Welcome to a comprehensive briefing on the Dreadnought class Nuclear Ballistic Missile Submarine, or SSBN. The 17,200-ton Leviathan will patrol the depths of the ocean for the next half-century. We will dissect the Dreadnought's program, exploring the strategic necessity, the sheer scale of the program, and most importantly, the key advances on the Dreadnought over the Royal Navy's current Vanguard-class SSBN. Since the final withdrawal of the Royal Air Force's air-delivered nuclear bombs in 1998, the UK has relied entirely on the Royal Navy to maintain its ultimate strategic insurance policy. This operational posture is formally known as Continuous At-Sea Deterrence. At any given moment, every minute of every day for decades, there has been at least one Royal Navy ballistic missile submarine prowling the dark depths of the ocean. For a nation with limited geographic strategic depth compared to continental superpowers, moving the nuclear deterrent exclusively beneath the waves made perfect strategic sense. Land-based missile silos and air bases can be targeted preemptively in a first strike. A deeply submerged submarine, however, acts as the ultimate survivable second strike platform. If the homeland is destroyed, the submarine guarantees a devastating retaliation, thereby deterring the initial attack from ever happening. The vessels currently executing the silent and unforgiving mission are the 4 Vanguard-class SSBNs. However, these vital strategic assets are approaching the absolute limit of their operational lives. The Vanguard-class boats were born of the Cold War. Designed in the 1980s and commissioned in the 1990s, they were built with an intended service life of just 25 years. While they remain capable machines, the harsh physical realities of deep ocean operations impose a toll on complex engineering. A submarine pressure hull endures immense stress cycles every time it dives and surfaces, leading to unavoidable metal fatigue over the decades. Extending their service life through comprehensive refits has bought the Royal Navy precious time. But defense planners cannot out-engineer the laws of physics forever. Being one of the older classes of nuclear submarines, the Vanguard, while still very quiet, no longer counts as among the stealthiest in the world. In the high-stakes realm of nuclear deterrence, acoustic stealth is the only guarantee of survival. Thus, the pressing requirements for a successor program was born to prevent any deterioration in the quality of the continuous deterrence patrol. The successor program eventually crystallized into what we now know as the Dreadnought class SSBN. The Ministry of Defense officially confirmed the project to replace the Vanguard class after a decisive House of Commons vote in 2016, initiating one of the most technologically demanding and expensive engineering endeavors in British industrial history. Construction of the first-in-class HMS Dreadnought began shortly at the BAE Systems shipyard. She will be followed by 3 sister ships named Valiant, Warspite, and King George VI. The historical weight of the name Dreadnought is highly intentional. Just as the original battleship of that name revolutionized naval warfare in the early 20th century, this new class is intended to set a new global benchmark for undersea nuclear deterrence. The decision to build exactly 4 hulls is because 4 boats are the strict mathematical minimum required to guarantee that at least one vessel is always on operational patrol. While another is undergoing deep maintenance, a third is conducting workup training at sea, and the 4th is either returning from or preparing for deployment. The financial scale of the Dreadnought program is staggering. In 2015, the Ministry of Defense estimated the total program cost at $31 billion British pounds, with an additional £10 billion contingency fund set aside. Over time, as is common with multi-decade defense procurement, this estimate has faced intense inflationary pressures, supply chain disruptions, and intense parliamentary scrutiny. The sheer size of the £10 billion contingency fund reflects the inherent risk of engineering for new nuclear submarines, where unforeseen technical hurdles can cause immediate fiscal spikes. To manage this extraordinary capital expenditure, the government established a dedicated submarine delivery agency. From an economic standpoint, the cost is spread across decades of operation, and the domestic investment is profound. The program supports 30,000 jobs across 1,500 companies in the UK supply chain. To mitigate development cost, the UK entered into a unique cost-sharing agreement with the United States Navy. Rather than designing a bespoke British missile section, both Allied nations agreed to jointly fund and develop a Common Missile Compartment. This modular section will be built into both the British Dreadnought class and the upcoming American Columbia-class SSBNs. By pooling their engineering resources and achieving economies of scale in manufacturing, both navies drastically reduced their initial capital expenditure on what is arguably the most structurally demanding section of the entire vessel. When the first Dreadnought slips into the water in the early 2030s, it will take the title of the largest submarine ever constructed for the Royal Navy. She will displace an immense 17,200 metric tons when submerged, which is over 1,000 tons heavier than the Vanguard class. The hull stretches to an impressive length of 154 meters. Interestingly, this massive increase in volume is not designed to carry a larger arsenal of weapons. Instead, the extra space is entirely dedicated to acoustic quietening technologies, vastly improved machinery rafting to isolate vibrations from the hull, and much enhanced crew habitability. Operating a submarine on a deterrence patrol means remaining submerged and entirely isolated for months at a time. To sustain the psychological and physical well-being of the crew of roughly 130 personnel, the internal environment has been custom designed. The submarine will feature adaptive lighting systems designed to simulate surface day and night conditions. It will boast better medical facilities, better physical training equipment, and learning spaces. Furthermore, for the first time in a British submarine design, the internal layout includes, from the very beginning, dedicated and separate living, sleeping, and washing facilities for female crew members, eliminating the need for expensive retrofits that's plagued older classes. The aforementioned Common Missile Compartment will house 12 ballistic missile launch tubes. This is a deliberate reduction from the 16 tubes found on the older Vanguard class. The reduction reflects the modern realities where a smaller number of highly reliable missiles is deemed sufficient for a credible deterrent posture. These 12 tubes will carry the American-built Trident II D5 submarine-launched ballistic missile. Each Trident missile has an intercontinental range and is capable of carrying multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, meaning a single missile can deliver several nuclear warheads to different targets. For tactical self-defense against hostile submarines or surface warships, the Dreadnought is armed with 4 533mm torpedo tubes. These will deploy the British Spearfish heavy torpedo. The Spearfish is a wire-guided weapon with active acoustic homing capabilities, giving the massive submarine formidable teeth should their stealth ever be compromised. The true beating heart of this underwater leviathan, however, is the propulsion system. The Dreadnought class will be powered by the Rolls-Royce Pressurized Water Reactor 3, commonly referred to as the PWR3. Both the Vanguard class submarines and the newer Astute class nuclear attack submarines use the older PWR2 reactor design. While the PWR2 is powerful, it is a complex system requiring intensive maintenance. The new PWR3 represents the next generation of reactors. It leverages shared American technology and is designed to be simpler, safer, and quieter. For example, the PWR3 boasts roughly 30% fewer parts than its predecessor. In the world of submarine engineering, fewer moving parts directly translate to easier routine maintenance, higher reliability, and crucially, far less mechanical noise radiated into the surrounding ocean. Perhaps the most remarkable economic and operational benefit of the PWR3 reactor is its life-of-ship core. Unlike traditional naval nuclear reactors that require the submarine to be cut open in a specialized dry dock halfway through its service life for nuclear refueling, the PWR3 will never need new fuel. Nuclear refueling is an inherently hazardous process that takes years to complete and costs hundreds of millions of pounds, and removes strategic assets from operations for a significant portion of its life. The PWR3 reactor holds enough highly enriched uranium to power the submarine continuously for its entire lifespan. This vastly improves the availability of the fleet, ensuring the Royal Navy gets a much higher return on its investment. Moving aft, the tail section of the Dreadnought introduces another radical departure from long-standing British norms. For decades, British submarines have used a standard cruciform tail configuration, meaning the steering planes are arranged in the shape of a cross. The Dreadnought class will instead feature an X-rudder configuration. In an X-rudder design, the four control surfaces are positioned diagonally. The primary benefit of this complex arrangement is better hydrodynamic maneuverability and better control authority, especially at low speed. An X-rudder configuration also has more redundancy, as damage to any single surface is less impactful than a cruciform rudder. The submarine can still safely steer and return to the surface using the remaining diagonal surfaces, which of course translates into better survivability. In older submarines, steering and diving were manual tasks. Sailors, known as planesmen, would sit at physical control devices, constantly pushing and pulling to maintain the boat's depth and trim. This was an exhausting and highly demanding job requiring intense concentration. To solve this, the Dreadnoughts will feature a submarine version of the fly-by-wire system known as Active Vehicle Control Management. Developed by BAE Systems at their Rochester facility, this system represents a perfect example of technology transfer. Drawing on decades of experience building digital flight control computers for advanced fighter jets, engineers have successfully adapted this fly-by-wire technology for the underwater marine environment. The Active Vehicle Control Management System uses powerful computers to digitally oversee the submarine's heading, pitch, depth, and overall buoyancy. Instead of wrestling with manual controls, the operators will input desired operational parameters, and the system will automatically adjust the X-rudders, hydroplanes, and internal ballast systems to perform the maneuver. This automation drastically reduces the cognitive workload on the crew, allowing them to focus on tactical awareness. More importantly, The system acts as a safety net. If a sudden command or a severe mechanical failure threatens to send the submarine into an uncontrolled dive towards crush death, the automated system will instantly override the current state and take optimal corrective action to stabilize the vessel and save the boat. All of these technological advances, from the life of ship reactor core and the Common Missile Compartment to the digital controls, contributes directly to the expectations of longevity for the Dreadnought class. Where the legacy Vanguard class was built for a mere 25-year lifespan, the Dreadnought is designed to serve for a minimum of 35 to 40 years. By spreading the massive procurement cost over 4 decades of future frontline service, the annualized cost of maintaining the Continuous At-Sea Deterrence becomes much more manageable. When the HMS Dreadnought finally submerges into the cold waters of the North Atlantic in the next decade, she will carry the ultimate responsibility for the UK's security well into the 2070s. The vessel balances the cost of developments with clever international partnerships and trades a higher initial outlay for decades of uninterrupted availability. The Dreadnought class is arguably the most complex machine ever constructed by the UK, and a defense procurement of huge proportions.